just got this new, we're live.
Okay, I think we're live now. Okay. So, hello everybody. Welcome to today's Magical Tea Talk Coffee Too. I'm Cindy Hernandez. I'm a licensed massage therapist, NLP practitioner, and immigrant identity coach. And then I'm gonna have Valerie introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name's Valeri McLaughlin, intuitive heart healer, energy artist with my I Am Surrounded by Love coffee-filled mug today. And I'm also a spiritual guide. I help people connect to their heart center magic so that they can live a life full of love, joy, happiness, surrounded by their intuition and guides. And already we have a visitor.
Ooh. All right, so today's topic, we were going to talk about release. And some of the things, well, one of the things that I wanted to mention was like something that came up to me. And yesterday I posted about this. And it's really about my dad passed away in the beginning of COVID. And one of the things that I noticed was like the day of his funeral, which was like on Tuesday, I noticed that the priest had said something, and he was like something about leaving the body and that they never die. And I was like, I already know that. Like, I can already feel him sometimes. And I hear it all the time, you know, that we never really lose them. It's just they transcend into something else, into another place. So one of the things that came up was like when we're leaving our physical body, there's like this conflict. It's like, I want to leave because this is peaceful, and I want to stay because my loved ones are here, because I have all of this love that's here. But when they're in that point of leaving their actual physical body to transcend into something else, it's like they release everything, and it's like they let go with a little bit of struggle, right? Because they're like, oh, I don't want to leave. But once they leave, they get into this place of even more love, even more gratitude, even more like this feeling of just freedom, pretty much. And it's like they now have all of this love in their life, like in their soul. And so one of the things that came up was like, okay, when you release something, you only allow more love in. And you would think about it and you would be like, how can I like even get more love? Like, I already love my children so much. But then once they're there, once they're out of their physical body and it's just the soul, it's like they have no judgment. They have nothing. Like, this is pure love. Like, in other times, my dad would be like, oh, you should change your career, you should do all of these things. But now that he's there, like, it's like he only has love for me. So like whatever choice I make, whatever thing, like anything that I do, it's only out of love. Like, he's always there with me, but out of love. Like, there's no judgment, there's nothing there. It's just love. And that's what happens with us too. When we die so many times, like I've died so many times, like I've had to get to the point where I had to release my old self in order to receive more love, in order for me to have more love for my children, more love for my family, more love for everybody else. And it's that like thing of just releasing what you used to know, releasing so many things that we grew up thinking that we, like even our ancestors, like once we release that, we allow ourselves to receive even more love. We allow ourselves to give even more love, which the heart chakra, you know, Valerie always talks about this, is like a thing about giving and receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And when you release things, you're allowed to do both things, like even more.
Mm-hmm. When you were saying, when you were talking about releasing, all right, I got this picture of my uncle who had passed away, and he loved to fish, and he would like cast out, catch, release. You know, you take the fish off, release it, throw it out, catch it. So they're like, I'm getting this visual of fishing. Like, you want to get another fish, you got to take the other one off.
Yeah.
You know, And that's what we do. Like, it's catch a release, and that's what happens when you release. You can bring more things in. But I like what you said when you were talking about sometimes you when we are in that process of our physical body dying and letting go, uh, sometimes there is that hesitation because we are all divine, but we're all human. And so our human part is like, maybe I'm not ready to let go yet. Maybe I want to stay here. I have more to do. Um, but our soul just is like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to expand. I'm ready to allow myself to be everywhere and go back to that feeling of that divine, unconditional love, and to be more of that essence of love. And so sometimes it is. Sometimes it takes souls, sometimes a little bit to uh, oh my God, I just lost the word, to ascend, to transition from one to the other, because they do have that. I like to call it a pause. Some people have different words for it, but it's that moment where it's like pause. And I felt this last year. My aunt and uncle passed away of an overdose, and being what I do and being able to talk to spirits that have passed over, I felt that my aunt went like that, like very quickly. It wasn't even a thought. It was like, boom. It was like almost like, oh, I'm ready to like breathe again. Um, and I felt like my uncle had that pause. Like it was like I was trying, like he was like kind of trying to stay because of his kids and his grandkids. But at the same time, you know, my him and my aunt had been together since they were like 15, and they were uh, almost 50. So they're in the late 40s. So it was like, how could I live my life without, like, so you do have that conflict because you're still in your humanness, but also in that process of becoming there. And so it took him a little bit longer to actually transition over. And isn't that what happens with us?
Yeah, I was just gonna get to that. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
the same thing. Like we often pause too, because we're like, we don't want to do the change. But at the same time, we're like, something needs to change. And when you're at that point, I mean, I always say it's a beautiful place to be when you're at that point, because now you have the opportunity to release that and move forward. But it's a choice, like we could either stay the same, or and we all have our own time. Like we as much as I want to be like, everybody do this, like everybody has their own timing, everybody has their own feeling on how, when to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. And we do have these moments where we release, and we're in this, like in our human forms, we do these release, and we have this huge like bliss, like we're floating on top of the world, and have, would you say, my heart was full with gratitude. You had this experience for like a month long, and then
Yeah.
life happens, or human life happens, and sometimes we get caught up in that. And that's why it's also like that balance. But now you have tools to help shift and get you back to more of that heart space. It is a constant practice. Constant
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah. And then like it's often we think like, oh, I'm already grateful. Like there is no like room. Like I've had this where in the beginning, like when I first started my journey, it was like, I'm already grateful for my mom. I'm already grateful for, I don't think I can be any more grateful, until I had this like huge awakening. And it was like, there's more, and I feel it. And there's so much that it explodes, where everything is just love. Like you can find love in literally every single thing, even the things that you think are not lovable, the people that you think are not lovable. It's like you find it. Like there's just this like freedom that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the other day when I was talking to Jen, and we were talking about how aligned and things were aligned back in February, and we didn't see it. It's the same thing with like being grateful for some things that you experience. Like I was having a conversation with a friend, and he was like, I'm so grateful that my dad talked me out of buying this house. And I said, it's so amazing that after all these years that you can see the gift that was given to you at that moment. And in that moment, it probably didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, not at all. I said, but now that you look back and can reflect on it, you can see, oh my God, that was such a beautiful gift that was given to me, because things would have been so much different for me if that had happened.
Yeah, there's so much like I always look back at like things that happened and I'm always like I'm so glad that things happened the way that they did. And it's like you don't even have to regret anything. It's just like everything just unfolds how it needs to be. And even though we think that we're like, oh no, that could have been different. I could have done something different. Yes, maybe you could have, but at the same time, it wouldn't have led you to where you're at now. It would have led you to another route.
Mm-hmm. And that's all part of our evolution. It's all part of our being more in our heart space and growing into that form, and getting that bliss that you can feel, that
Yeah.
divine love, that present. And I was going to say presence, but the word present came out instead.
Yeah.
um, and it's releasing. If you did not release the attachment to that actual house, then you wouldn't have been able he wouldn't have been able to see the gift. But because he was able to release that attachment, then you could see the gift.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything keeps building on everything.
It does. And like you said, like you can't catch more fish if you're still hooked onto that other one. Yeah. It's so connected and it is a conflict, like a
Mm-hmm.
conflict though, because you're like, I don't know. I don't know if I should. I don't know if this is the right thing or wrong thing to do. But the thing is, like, we also have to know that whatever our choice is, there is no right or wrong. It's just what it is. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing that can go wrong. It's only the way that we look at it, the way that we perceive things, but there is no right or wrong. So
It's
whatever
one of
you
my
do.
my favorite cards in the Angel and Ancestor deck is the Directional Guardian. And that card is like this angel, and then it has animals, and like because each animal represents a different direction, and it says there is no right or wrong direction,
Yeah.
and whatever direction you choose, you're going to receive the lesson and knowledge and wisdom that you need.
Yeah.
But the direction that makes your heart sings the most is the direction more in line with your soul.
Yeah. So it's just like technically it's just like little detours. I mean, like you could say they're shortcuts, but they're not really short. But they all end up leading you to somewhere once you start, realizing.
I reflect back on my journey where I got here, and it reminds me of when I was a kid and they would teach us long math. Like you would have to learn long division before they taught you the shortcut. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I learned through my whole life. I had to go the long way around to get here. And even if I was given like that short path here, I was like, nope, I got to go this way. And then I come back and I'm back here. I'm like, man, oh well, guess I needed to learn those lessons.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. Um, but releasing is so important for us. And we release it when I do energy healing. I always tell people, you may cough, you may sneeze, you may laugh, you may cry, you may scream, and that's all the way the energy is releasing. So sometimes the energy comes out that way, I don't always tell them that your body's going to shake because, you know, if I'm doing with a group of people that, but I was that way. Like when I would get energy healing at the first time, like you would think that I would be having exorcism because I was shaking so much. Like literally my body was like going like this and it was releasing so much. And for me, it was in the beginning, it was very painful. The healing that I was doing was very, very painful, and I would experience excruciating pain. And I remember a couple times I had a couple different people that would work on me, and they're like, "Do you want me to stop?" I'm like, "No." I said, "This is what I need to release." And
Yeah.
sometimes it is. Sometimes what we have to release will be painful, but it's
Mm-hmm.
really important. And I knew in that moment it was important for me to continue there. But um, it could have been so much easier for me to say, yes, this is too much. This is too painful. I need you to stop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it would have been okay too. I would have eventually got there. It might have took me a little bit
A little bit
longer,
longer. Mm-hmm.
but I would have eventually got there.
It's funny because this is the same thing with like massage therapy, and like some people don't like the deep tissue, and that's totally okay. You're still going to get the same amount of healing, but just it's when you're not going as deep, it's still effective, but not like you're not getting rid of it in like 2 sessions. Rather, you're getting rid of it in like slow motion, but you're still releasing a lot, like because you're still releasing all of the toxins and everything. But it's a matter of choice, you know, like you don't have to suffer when you're releasing. It's a choice. Like you can either, you know, do the deep tissue, or you can just choose different modalities that will get you there.
Yeah. I remember hearing that statement when, like, you know, you got to work out. It's like no pain, no gain. You know, no pain, no gain. Get to the gym, no pain, no gain. And I'm like, well, that's not true. It's true, but it's not true.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
you can do it where it's not going to be as painful
Mm-hmm.
and get the results, but it might be a little bit more gradual. But
Yeah.
it's still there. If you're dedicated to what you're doing and want to continue the journey, whether you do it where you get all this pain all at once or you gradually do it, you're going to get there. It just, how you get there and how long it takes you might be a little bit different, but
Yeah.
there might be a reason why you got to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
um, so, you know, my one of the things I would say to anybody that is going through a process, whether it's grief of losing a loved one, or whether it's grief of losing a part of you, or letting go, releasing a part of you, because we hold on to some things and it becomes such ingrained in us that when we do release it, you feel vulnerable, you feel sad, or you feel like you're missing something. It's normal, it's okay, and just be patient and give yourself credit for where you were and where you got, and let it take whatever, how long it needs to, because there is no time limit. There's no like, do this in 10 days, breathe this in a year. You know, there's no time. There's no time. You process it away. And I'm sure you've experienced this, and where you could be going along for months and maybe not cry, or it actually hasn't been that long, so I won't say months, but you might be going along with time period where you're like not crying, and then one day all of a sudden you just bust out in tears out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
you're like, where is this coming from? And then you feel that, and it's like, that's where it's coming from. I've had that happen with me. Or the other part is that you all of a sudden feel their presence. Like you get this overwhelming feeling of your loved one standing next to you or around you, and you just cry. And those tears aren't always tears of grief. Sometimes those are tears of joy and happiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. And it's funny because if you go through your journey, you will get to that point where you're crying, but of happiness about how everything just turned out and how everything just connected so beautifully, and how your life journey is just you get to that place of gratitude, you get to that place of love, of like real love, genuine love, like of anything is just love. You get to that place and then you start crying because it's so beautiful. It's like a beautiful place to be at.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
what I wanted to leave you guys with, like when you're going through this journey of, leaving yourself or leaving, your loved ones, it's pretty much just, allowing your emotions to come through and just allowing yourself to give your time to release it, because we often don't have to release things right away. It's our journey and we can do whatever we want with it. And so
Yeah. And I'm just going to add to that is like, because one of the greatest gifts I was given, because when I clear like energy, work with like Archangel Michael or to clear energy, or I always say, please cut the cords of people, places, and things that are no longer serving me. And I use that word no longer serving me all the time. And if something is serving you, it's going to stay there because you still need it for whatever reason.
yeah.
So whether
And
it's grief or guilt, it's going to stay with you until you've processed it.
And I also wanted to add to that, it's like when you're releasing, it's not this thing of like you're never gonna like see it again or you're never gonna like feel it again. It's like releasing but learning from it. Like it's always gonna not show up physically, but you're always gonna reflect back on it. And exactly like with like once that passed away, like I can always reflect back on my dad. I can always reflect back on the memories that I had with him. It's not like I'm releasing him and just forgetting about him. It's just knowing that there is more love and
Yep.
he has all of this unconditional love for me right now. And I can look back at all of the lessons that he's taught me, and I can look back at all of the things that he's done and move forward from there.
Yeah, and just like when you grieve loss of loved ones or friends, they're never the same. The way I grieve my grandmom is different than the way I grieve my one uncle, different than the way I grieve my other aunt and uncle. And that's also when you release parts of you,
Yeah.
it's different. It's not always the same. So if something comes back up that triggers something in you, like maybe guilt or something, you're like, oh, I have already released guilt, and then something comes back and, well, it's a different part of it. It's something
Yes.
that maybe you were holding on, and so it's gonna, even when you release that, it's gonna be different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you have tools because you've
Yep.
gone through it, so it's easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Like, and it's just also connected. Like when you're releasing like muscles, like it goes, it goes deeper too. And it's like, okay, you release that one pain, but now there's a little piece there still. So you have to release that a little bit more. And it's just about knowing that it's always about releasing. We're always releasing things because we want more. As humans, we want more and we can have more. We just have to let go.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave and I have to go do something right now. So,
All right.
do you want to leave them off with anything else?
Nope. But if you guys have any topics that you would like us
They're in
to
my wallet.
talk about, then you can email us at magicalteatalks@gmail.com or DM either Cindy or myself. And you can check out my service at intuitivehearthealer.com. And thank you for spending the morning with us.
Yeah. All right, bye.
Bye bye.